Last night, Donald Trump spoke to reporters on Air Force One about the tariffs. He's not backing off of them, apparently. And here he is on the plane being asked about it.
You talked to a lot of leaders this weekend. Can you tell us, sir, were there any deals made?
I spoke to a lot of leaders, European, Asian, from all over the world. They're dying to make a deal. But I said, we're not going to have deficits with your country. We're not going to do that because to me a deficit is a loss. We're going to have surpluses or we're at worst going to be breaking even. But China would be the worst in the group because the deficit is so big and it's not sustainable. And you know, I was elected on this. This was one of the biggest reasons I got elected was exactly because of this. And we're going to put tariffs, we've already put them on. It's not a question of we will. We're going to put them on. And those tariffs next year will make us $1 trillion. In addition to the $1 trillion, thousands of companies are going to relocate back into the United States.
Again, you can't do the tariffs before creating the capacity for these companies to come back to the United States. All this does is immiserate the consumer, immiserate the average American, offset the costs onto us. The tariff may be paid by the corporation that is trying to sell their goods in the United States. Yes, that's exactly right. Goes right to the federal government. But what, do you think it ends there? No. Then they raise the cost of the good when they sell it here in the United States. And that is how they pay for the tariff that's been imposed on them on the federal government. And the people that pay for the tariffs are the American consumer. And this also begs the question, okay, so you're basically assuming that people have the capacity and the pocket change to pay for these increased goods, which would justify the tariffs. So after the tariff is imposed and these corporations raise prices here, what if people look for alternatives, right? For it to exist as a fundraising mechanism, people would still have to buy the goods that are being that have the tariffs imposed on them. And that's not the case. But okay, so then, all right, people are, if you abandon the idea that it's going to raise a bunch of revenue, right, which they're saying is the case, okay, then you can talk about the domestic manufacturing and what that's going to incentivize. We don't have the capacity to make these goods here. We just don't.
Did you see the railroad tracks outside East Palestine? This country is not ready to do that.
No.
Our entire infrastructure is not set up to do this. And again, and these tariffs, if they were done by Congress, then there may be some assurity and to people making economic plans that, okay, we're stuck with this for the time being. All business leaders are like, well, if once Trump goes, or even if maybe in 90 days or something, there'll be some break here that we can go back to how it was before. So no one's actually planning to build a new shoe factory in Des Moines.
No. And what we're going to make iPhones here? Is this all a prerequisite to slashing labor and paying starvation wages for people even more than we already do? We can't do that here. And this is about Donald Trump wanting the whole world to come to heel and come to him. And then also, there are Republicans that love it because they're going to use this to justify tax cuts on the rich in this upcoming budget and cuts to Medicare and Social Security. The Social Security website has basically not been functioning for weeks because Doge is tinkering around in there.
Seems like it'd be easier to cut it when the economy's doing well, but what do I know? This is where the right wing goes when they have literally nothing. There's no solutions. This is the same thing we saw with Brexit in the UK, and there are criticisms of the EU to be made. But the way Brexit was carried out is just hurt their economy.
Yeah,
it's just smaller than it would have been if they hadn't done that. And this is just going to hurt our economy. America, by and large, will be less rich. Of course, we can take some solace from the fact that a lot of that, the majority of it is, the people that own stocks and the 1%. And it's great that they're hurt. It's not clear to me that their political influence is weakened because of this. And, if there's massive unemployment and layoffs and stuff like that, it's clear who really actually feels that, as opposed to the people who just have to, take less trips to Tahiti every year.
Epish writes in, it's crazy you claim that we are unable to make electronics here. Biden's CHIPS Act just did that. Okay. First of all, a lot of the money for the CHIPS Act, this is the abundance critique, by the way. They criticize the fact, this is right, but I still maintain that the solution of arguing that government is the problem is incorrect. A lot of the funding for the CHIPS Act hasn't even been implemented yet. Right. Like, the CHIPS Act passed, and I don't know what the percentage is in terms of where those subsidies have gone and where that manufacturing capacity is at right now, but we are not close to getting to the place where we would need to be for that to be the case. And that is part of the problem with the tariffs, is if you had a 5-year period of reindustrialization and heavy government investment in creating these systems, then you could do potentially targeted tariffs to create more manufacturing here and lower the cost of goods once we have the capacity to create those goods. But John Ard says Trump paused the CHIPS Act. Exactly. And even then, the way that people are doing this, he's doing this with the broad-based tariffs, makes no sense. And we showed the insane formula that he's using to calculate that apparently Peter Navarro is implementing. Go ahead, Matt. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the CHIPS Act and the Inflation Reduction Act, a lot of that investment or the de-risking basically make it so investors can invest without facing risk, which is a great position to be in. I'd like to be in that position. Right. But yeah, then a lot of those projects, they're like, well, it's not really profitable if we break ground right now. Maybe we wait until a year from now, right? China doesn't do that. Right. China's like, we're going to have certain initiatives that we want to set ourselves up for the next century, and we're going to go get that done. And America has had, and we're squandering it, but we've had the power to do that and make those sorts of determinations here, and we just haven't done it.
And also, the CHIPS Act is just one sector of our economy. It's not...
And we're not TMC or TSMC.
TSMC.
Like the sort of cutting edge of foundries, unless this has changed very recently, but the small nanometer chips, the cutting edge stuff, that's still made in Taiwan.
Epish, do you support a domestic production program because the abundance bros don't? I just said I did. But
are you making an affirmative case for these tariffs? Because maybe instead of asking about our takes, give your take.
Yes,
give an affirmative
please.
take for these tariffs instead of just, come on, Socrates.
Wisco Disco, the office of the CHIPS Act the office the CHIPS Act created was fired because they were all probationary employees. Bits of Geek, not to mention the jobs within high-tech chip manufacturing requires education that this administration is trying to tear down.
And whether we can make chips is one thing. Whether we can make an iPhone entirely, yes. No, it's not happening.
Jack from Wisconsin, LMAO at the CHIPS Act being done. Microsoft isn't even close to taking over the Foxconn site in Racine, Wisconsin. I don't think that there are even enough people here to take all these jobs.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.